All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome all professional project managers, PMI members, and hopefully some PMO Global Institute future members. My name is Dylan Martin, and I am the Community and Events Manager at the PMO Global Institute. And I'm very excited to be here today with the How to Fast Track Your PMO with the Belgium chapter. And on behalf of the PMO Global Institute, we're very happy to be virtual guests in Belgium today. And as you may know, the Belgium region is home to the NATO headquarters, also the EU Commission, and also the European Parliament. And not saying that that's the reason, but Belgium is also very well known for their amazing chocolate, their waffles, and their beer. I spent 6 months there, so I definitely indulged. But otherwise, Belgium also ranks amongst the top 20 most competitive nations in the world and is amongst the top 10 most attractive countries for investment, with manufacturing industries accounting for 1/3 of the country's GDP. And Belgium is also known for its financial importance, as well as the importance of trade. However, its leading economic sectors are chemical and the plastics industry, metallurgy and metalworking, the food industry, and pharmaceutical products. But behind these industries is a well-established and hardworking PMO force, as well as project management professionals. Now, before moving on, I do want to extend a thank you to Christine Dassy, as well as the PMI Belgium chapter, for all the work they've done in helping to prepare for this event. And unfortunately, our CEO is not going to be able to join us today. He's on a very different time zone, so it's probably around 12 p.m. his time, and he's kind of like the Elon Musk of PMOs. So he works very hard, and of course, sleep is important. Also, we will be having a Q&A session at the end of this session, so please do feel free to put some questions in on the chat, and we will get back to them. And then I'd like to introduce you all to someone who's probably very familiar to you, Christine Dassy, PMI Belgium president. Christine has been with PMI since 2012, but on the board since 2018. And she has around 26 years of experience in the project management space and over a decade in the PMO sector, although you wouldn't tell by how young she looks. And Christine is also working as a freelance consultant now, assisting companies in the evolution of their PMOs. So I'd like to pass the floor to Christine now.
Thank you very much, Dylan. I would like also to thank you to contact us to organize this webinar. It's a pleasure for us to welcome you, to welcome PMO Global Institute, and also to welcome all the attendees. I'm sure it will be a very nice webinar with a lot of interaction. Yes, it's really a pleasure. And yes, as you mentioned, we will record the session, and please, if you can switch your camera. And yes, at the end of the webinar, we'll share with you the PDF code and some message from the boards. So thank you very much, and I have enjoyed the session.
All right, fantastic. So let me share my screen with you and take you over our event for today. So please do let me know when you can see my screen. Yep, all good. All right, so this is the event called Fast Track Your PMO. Now, let me give you a quick introduction to PMO Global Institute. Some of you may have heard of us before, but perhaps to some of you, it is a bit new. So PMO Global Institute is a global body for PMO certifications, representing global project management officers, including project, program, and portfolio managers involved in defining, establishing, and running high-performance project management offices in and across industry sectors. And our objective is pretty simple. The objective of PMO Global Institute is to make PMO learning available to project professionals across the globe. And there's many ways in which we do this. So we do this through our certification, which we will touch on a bit later. Also events, such as the one that you're currently in, as well as networking opportunities and hands-on knowledge sharing. We also have a community initiative that we are running, setting up local PMO communities all around the world. So, we call ourselves the PMO Global Institute. We often get that question, how global are we? Currently, we have over 2,000 members across 100 different countries, as well as over 70 business partners in 50 different countries. And these business partners are professional consultants that teach our certification. And we'll get into that a bit later as well. All right, then let's dive into the learning objectives. In other words, what might you expect out of this session? So we will learn how a PMO setup works, some tools and techniques to apply the CB-PMO framework, the Certified Baseline PMO framework, increase your visibility and become recognized within your organization and peer circle, as well as make use of the best practices in PMO and increase the success rate of your projects. And you'll also be able to earn 1.5 PDU contact hours for this event. All right, we also have some session benefits for the audience. So you all will have access to our CB-PMO framework. You'll all get access to the largest PMO community. That is a LinkedIn global PMO community where we have members and professional experts from all around the world. And at the end of our session, there also will be a quiz, and 5 lucky winners will stand the chance to win a year membership with our Global Institute valued at $89 each. And there'll also be a 10% discount on PMO Global Institute PMO certifications. Now, when I talk about 5 lucky winners being able to stand a chance to win a paid membership with our institute, that will get you access to this PMO guidebook. So if you are a PMO professional and maybe you're a bit uncertain or struggling in the PMO space, maybe you want to mature the PMO of your organization, whichever challenge you're facing, I guarantee you that the PMO guidebook will be of help. This as a step-by-step guide in how to set up a successful PMO. And I welcome you all to try and win the PMO guidebook. Now, 46% of PMO directors say that their organization does not understand the value of project management. Also, 68% of stakeholders perceive their PMO as bureaucratic or possibly over-bureaucratic. And now I want to discuss, what is a PMO and what are some of the challenges that we might see within the PMO space. So from our guidebook, we have this explanation of a PMO as a group consisting of internal and external entities, stakeholders, interest groups, etc., which defines, maintains, and ensures standards of project management to deliver strategic initiatives. Now, can we get some conversation in the chat? So why do you think PMOs fail? Any answer, just feel free to put that in the chat and tell me what are any reasons that you think PMOs might fail. Yeah, lack of sponsorship and internal support, 100%. We don't fail. I love that.
That's the thinking.
Right. Any other reasons why you think some PMOs might fail? Of course, Anastasia is not part of that statistic. All right. I will also jump into some shortly. Project management adhesion. Yeah, definitely. All right. And let's look at some other reasons. So when you look at these statistics regarding PMO failures, we find that 75% of PMOs fail. That is a staggering statistic, and that's in under 3 years. So I think the larger significance of this means that when you think of PMOs and project managers, I like to think of them as change makers. So the world is changed via projects, and PMO professionals and project managers are responsible for those projects. So the question I ask myself is, how are we creating meaningful change in the world if we're dealing with such high failure rates? And that's the kind of overall significance on my part. And before I jump into some possible reasons why we see such a high failure rate, I want to first ask the question, why does that matter? And I think it matters because in a world where companies are dealing with increased competition, rapidly changing market dynamics and risks, and projects are being increasingly more complex and team members increasingly strained, it's very important that PMOs are there to provide governance and visibility. And in order for PMOs to effectively operate within this environment, of course, there are a few challenges. Challenge number 1, it's all about value. Value perceived as offering little or no value. So it's very important that PMOs find ways to bring tangible and measurable value. So they focus on outcomes, not only outputs, right? Outputs being sort of products or services delivered, but outcomes being outcomes that can bring about change. And it's also important that you align PMO maturity with the business objectives. And we'll touch on that a bit later as well. Number two, a lack of senior sponsorship. So this is what you see when there's little value that is being perceived. And value is subjective. It lies in the eyes of the beholder. So understanding those expectations is incredibly important. Next, we have inexperienced PMOs. Now, are the PMOs certified or PMs? And we also refer to this as accidental PMOs. And what we find is that sometimes there seems to be confusion regarding the exact distinction between a PMO professional and a project management professional. And what we see is that often project managers will jump into a PMO role and have to learn how to manage a PMO on the fly. Now, you wouldn't put a nurse in a surgeon's position. And I certainly wouldn't want an unprofessional surgeon to operate on me, but we seem to do that with the PMO role, right? We sort of put project managers in that PMO space and expect them to have those skills and knowledge. Under strategic vision, not aligned with the organization's strategy, and PMOs are too busy to be strategic. Now, PMOs were traditionally focused on tools, templates, and processes, but we find as though that role has evolved. So they need to be strategic and ensure that every project aligns with those overarching business objectives. Number 5, sponsor business does not realize PMO values and benefits. This is a big one. Benefits must be tangible and measurable and in being in line with those sponsor expectations. This is incredibly important if you want to get that buy-in and support behind the PMO. PMOs are seen as project police instead of strategic partners to achieve organizational strategy, vision, and mission. I think we need to move away from this understanding of the sort of project police or template police. And I don't think the PMO should be seen as the enemy. They are enablers there to remove obstacles. And I think emotional intelligence is quite important here to get them to work together, inspire and motivate the PMOs and the PMs to work together to achieve certain goals. Low project success rate due to ill-fitting processes, bad tools, and hero PMOs or PMs. So if you look at the PMO maturity levels from level 1 to 5, where 1 is sort of infancy and 5 being a fully optimized PMO, we find that around 88% are actually struggling to breach that level 2 maturity rate. And then we talk about hero PMs. So often we find as though those PMs that kind of stick to their guns, they get a little bit territorial. They don't want to adapt new changes and new processes. And that's also a matter that can also be quite a resistance to change that needs to be catered for. And then on the flip side, how does a PMO benefit from the organization? So we looked at the challenges. Let's turn that around and look at the benefits that we might see. So number 1, top-down strategic alignment in the PMO or business. So this can be more effectively implemented when the PMO is upgraded to that enterprise level, but PMOs also need very strong leadership capabilities in order to effectively create this alignment. Deliver value, consistency, and accuracy to organizational beyond on time and on budget. Now, we've spoken about the importance of this, but I also want to mention the importance of quick wins. So yes, it is true that sometimes it can take quite a while to showcase value, sometimes over a year. So it is important to plan in some quick wins when dealing with the PMO. Number 3, decisions. Because PMOs have that visibility, they can better analyze risk and inform better decision making. I always think of the sort of Titanic example of this. So, the Titanic was heading for the iceberg and they could only see the top, right? They didn't have the visibility of that sort of underlying what was lurking under the water and thought they could go through it. So they didn't understand the larger risks. And because PMOs create that visibility, they can understand those larger risks. And you know how the Titanic ended. So I don't need to elaborate on that part. Facilitates project completion. So again, PMOs are there to remove barriers and allocate resources effectively. Training, mentoring, coaching, and knowledge transfer. So logging best practices and ensuring rapid project delivery with skilled staff is also something that PMOs can provide. Provides organizational standards, best practices, central repository, quality, and efficiency. And there you have it again, you have to be efficient and effective, ensuring that everyone's on the same page. And that's how you become the sort of center of excellence in the PMO space. We also have analyze important organizational data. For example, time to go live, achieved goals, impact created, and time to results. So this allows fluency. Data is kind of the new oil. From fluency from project initiation to project delivery, PMOs do create a certain level of control. And then lastly, we have facilitates communication and flow. So poor communication often does lead to project failure. And as project managers, probably 90% of your time is spent communicating. And without effective communication, little progress can be made in the areas of collaboration, innovation, taking initiative, and simply just helping one another. And in these areas and in today's competitive world, this is what is expected of PMOs. And if we want to address that 75% failure rate, it's important that we address these challenges and be able to deliver effectively on those expectations in order to showcase the benefits and value of a PMO. All right, and there you have it. Those are some trainings, some benefits and challenges that we have in the PMO space. And I'd like to introduce you to our next speaker, which will be Wendy Kwan. So with over a decade of work experience, Wendy is an accomplished project management professional with extensive experience in all facets of leading the development and implementation of various projects and business initiatives. A strong advocate for education, she's a lifelong learner offering knowledge in leadership, policy, projects and change management, business management and adult education, complemented with over a decade of proven leadership in supply chain, logistics, IT, legal, financial, education, government, and nonprofit industries. She's also the managing principal of Edu Design Learning and Project Consultant Limited, and currently provides professional services to Purelator as an IT project management consultant in various projects. And I'm happy to pass the floor to you now, Wendy.
All right, thank you so much, Dylan. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully this is working. If it's not working, then let's see. I think this should be it. All right, let me know when you guys can see my screen here. Give me a thumbs up. All right, I got thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, before I start, I want to thank PMI Belgium and PMO Global Institute for having me. It is an honor to be here. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. It's the afternoon for me, evening for you guys, and who else, anywhere else. My name is Wendy. I will be presenting the Fast Track Your PMO on behalf of PMO Global Institute. So I hope from this presentation, you'll learn something valuable as a takeaway when you go back to your clients or your business or your employer and just apply into your current practice or even your future endeavors on how to fast track your PMO. Now, I know Dylan did an amazing intro of me. So just to cut as an extension, hi again, everybody. Again, my name is Wendy, be your presenter. So to Dylan, just an extension of Dylan's intro. So I am the managing principal at Edu Design Learning and Project Consultant Limited, and working in collaboration with PMO Global Institute to deliver this talk. I worked in administrative capacity for over 10 years in government, nonprofit, and for-profit sectors, to name a few. I think Dylan already mentioned law, professional regulatory affairs, and fintech. So currently I'm an IT project manager for a national supply chain and logistics organization, and as well as a portfolio delivery manager for all things regarding to Salesforce for a cloud solution consulting firm. I also like to add that, I have a very strong passion for education, professional development, lifelong learning, all of that, and believe in helping others through guidance and coaching to their fullest potential. So, don't be a stranger. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. All right. Now, when it comes to project management, strong project managers need to have a good balance between possessing business acumen, communication, definitely for sure, and technical skills. One recent and notable accomplishment I've done in a couple past years is essentially implementing the package-free return enablement with Amazon Canada that would allow end users the ability to return their Amazon packages or purchases without having to print a label or package their shipment, hence package-free. So this solution was deployed nationwide in Canada, and it has been highly successful and profitable. Now, whether you're in a small, medium, or even a larger organization, as long as there are multiple initiatives with competing interests for funding, prioritization, etc., there is a benefit in having a project management office to manage and guide the execution and delivery of these initiatives from end to end, and even post-closure when you're measuring benefits. Now, there's two sayings when it comes to performance. One, what gets measured gets managed. Two, progress cannot be generated when we are satisfied with existing solutions. So at PMI Global Institute, PMO also stands for something else. P is for purpose. Why does the PMO exist? Now, before anything, you need to understand the purpose of why we're doing this in the first place. The purpose is, it has to be credible, has to be recognized and meaningful to others. It's sensible to define the PMO mission and vision that are essentially the inputs into designing the principles for the PMO to ensure that the PMO is aligned with its objectives. Now, M is for measure. How do we know if our PMO is operating successfully and delivering the value it proposed? It's important for a PMO to set its objectives that are quantifiable and measurable. So at PMO Global Institute, we talk about how a PMO health check assesses the offered PMO services so that you can report actionable findings and recommendations. It also shows how useful and valuable we are to our customers and stakeholders. So just remember that PMO are always in the constant state of change as they grow with the organization and its needs. So as such, the way how we define and measure success in a PMO will also change as well. So just remember that. And then lastly, but not least, O is for optimize. Once we have identified and determined what is it that we're trying to measure, we also need to ask ourselves, well, how can we improve? So this comes back to my previous statement that the way how a PMO defines and measures success will change based on the prioritization and the needs of the organization and its stakeholders. So PMO cannot afford to stay still. It must consistently align its goals and objectives with that of the organization so that PMO can maximize value and benefit that the projects provide to the organization. Project efficiency and performance are consistent and further optimized through continuous process improvements. Now, with this being said, it's equally important for PMOs to adopt and apply strong change management principles and best practices to ensure that these changes are not only effective, but also adopted as well. Because at the end of the day, who's delivering the projects? It's the project managers, right? That's very important. All right, guys, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to either go on your phone or go on a new web browser and join me at slido.com. And all you got to do is enter this number key here. So I'm going to give everyone maybe 30 seconds to do this. Are we doing good? It's hard when I can't see your faces, but if you're camera shy and it's late, it's in the evening, you're eating dinner, that's totally a-okay. You can always give me a thumbs up through the reaction, or you can even just show your camera and be like, I'm in. Awesome. All right, I got Stefan here. Thank you so much. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide. Now, PMI Belgium members and guests, I would love to see your responses on why do you think having key performance indicators or KPIs are important for PMOs? And what's an example of a PMO KPI? All right, so you guys are all logged in, so chime in. I got 2 participants typing. 5 participants. One person says, need to measure if you want to improve. Awesome. Faster time to market, resource management. Fantastic. Important to measure. Absolutely. The existence of PMO at organization is to be justified. The value of PMO is to be higher than the cost of PMO. Yep. And important to measure. If it's not measured, does it exist? I love that. Investment return, love it. To measure performance, set a baseline, track progress, improvement. Important to know objectives. You guys are amazing. You know, you guys are on fire. So I think one more participant is typing. And then once that's submitted, we'll go on to the next slide. All right, we need to record our benefits and self-advertise. Oh, interesting. All right. Thank you guys for participating. Love it. Now, here are some common PMO KPIs. Improve project completion, improve prediction. Ever thought about forecasting? Yeah. Improve stakeholder satisfaction. We're all serving to somebody. Prioritize project to improve ROI. Somebody mentioned about investment return. Kudos to you. Faster time to market. Improve resource management, improve process management, and optimize finances. Nobody thought about the finance part, right? Because, you know, project managers, who cares about money, right? All right, so next item we have now at the PMO Global Institute, they have recently released their new edition copy, or the first edition copy of their PMO guidebook and the standard for project management office. It serves as a guide that identifies project management office principles that guides the behaviors and actions of PMO professionals and other stakeholders who work on or engage in delivering strategic organizational initiatives and taking the business objectives into consideration. So this guidebook provides a basis for understanding project management and how it enables intended outcomes in different project environments. So the standard applies in most cases, regardless of the industry, the location, size, or PMO structures. It also reflects the progression of the PMO profession in various industries. So organizations expect PMOs to deliver outcomes in addition to outputs and artifacts, just like how project managers are expected to deliver projects that create value for the organization and stakeholders within the organization's system for value delivery. So this edition is the foundation for PMO professionals to better understand how PMO works and operates, and also enabling its users to a common understanding of the best practices and approach that every PMO should follow. Here's a really nifty looking diagram here. This is called the Certified Baseline PMO Consultant, or CB-PMO. It's a framework that was developed by PMO Global Institute that's used to set up and manage PMOs across projects and many industries. So the PMO framework serves as a guidance for all levels in an organization. It will benefit any stakeholder who are either are actively engaged in a project, a program, or a portfolio management. So as a result, organizations get better alignment and visibility. So it also helps improve business results with a quick turnaround time, improve quality, and increase predictability. So forecasting, right? So that's also really important. So in addition, it helps organizations to respond effectively to unpredictable market conditions, ever-changing customer needs, and upcoming technologies. Now, this is a breakdown of the CB-PMO framework. Now, it's a lot, but we're gonna go through this one by one, right? Now, in addition, or just in general, the business objective in the green box that you see up front, I don't have my pointer. Let me take up my pointer here. Hopefully you guys can see that. At the very top, drives the need to have a PMO, right? Its strategies translate the business objectives of the organization. So to convert these strategies into action, organizations need a framework to work with, Now, some of its strategic objectives are reflected through projects initiated under the PMO, and hence a strong framework is needed to adapt the challenges that has been set at the strategic level. All right, here's a little pop quiz for everybody. Just, why is having a framework important? Now, think of building a house. All right, this is free for all. Please join, chime in. Planning, absolutely. Provide structure to give structure and process, yes. Transparency, predictability, and teamwork. Guidelines, love it. To be able to structure and compare. Oh, that's a good one. Framework helps to maintain quality project governance. Good. Best practices. Oh, 2 more participant, 1 type. Oh, we can manage the risk and issues. Okay. Nice. And I think after this 1 participant, once they're finished, then we can move on. Frameworks provide certain perspectives on content. Ooh, that's very unique. It's interesting. Thank you. You guys are great. Now, a framework acts like a foundation upon which the structure can be built, right? So a framework consists of governance that defines the methodologies to be followed, policies, and templates to be used for guidance. So those who were talking about, guidance or a framework or, governance, policy, all those things, or even process, right? Like methods and stuff like that. Spot on. Good for you guys. All right, so going back to this CB-PMO, CB-PMO has its own framework that consists of several layers, including 1, the foundation layer, 2, the executable layer, 3, the supporting layer, and lastly but not least, 4, the leadership layer. Now, each layer presents a definite area of functions, processes, and activities. So the foundation layer consists of business objectives that address why does an organization need a PMO, right? And these business objectives are later converted into executable PMO strategies. So in the following sections, I will explain how these different layers and processes interact with each other. All right, so we're starting with the foundation layer. So this layer assesses the current condition of the PMO. Well, let's say you already have a PMO, right? Currently. So you want to understand what is the current state of the PMO. So doing a brief health check is actually recommended. So based on the findings of the health check report, the PMO may go for a more detailed level of PMO maturity assessment. For example, is it just starting? Are you currently developing it? Is it well defined? Is it well managed? Is it optimized, for example? Now, in addition, a detailed analysis and functionality of the proposed PMO should be done to reflect the strategies of the organization. So, in this layer, there are a couple of key outputs here. We have the roadmap, the charter, and also the health check and maturity assessment report. Now, the CB-PMO framework emphasizes defining the PMO roadmap in the early stages of the PMO establishment. So let's say either you don't have a PMO, you're planning to start up a PMO, or maybe you have a PMO and it's in its very early stage. Creating and defining that PMO roadmap is pretty critical. So as per the CB-PMO framework, once you do the pulse check, your maturity assessment and analysis, and defining the PMO functions are completed, it's really recommended to define that roadmap that outlines the strategic intent of the organization. So once the roadmap is done, then you can start on the PMO charter, but you can also do it in tandem if time is a constraint, let's say, for example. So sometimes the roadmap is in progress, but also the PMO charter is also in progress. As one changes, the other changes as well. So like a project charter, the PMO charter is a contractual document between the organization and the PMO. And a PMO charter contains like a list of all the service offerings. And on the other end would be like, the other half would be the supporting commitments from the organization. Like what does the organization will promise you in exchange for your services, like funding, resources, and sponsorship. So it goes like a two-way street here. Now, once the PMO roadmap and charter have been created, a list of policies should be developed to support the execution of the roadmap. This is a no-brainer. You got to have some sort of guidance and policies to help influence the behaviors of your PMs, right? Now, it's best to start with a proof of concept or a POC for short to establish a PMO rather than start with a full-scale mature PMO. I've seen some PMOs that they basically didn't access yesterday, and then in 1 week they had this huge enterprise PMO, but they didn't have any policies or governance structure, and it was just everything was just being done on the fly, and there were a huge group of PMs that were completely lost because we didn't have direction. Reporting was inconsistent, you know, all that jazz. So it was quite the struggle from what I've witnessed. So a majority of PMOs fail due to overestimated commitments to the organization. It's better to conduct a trial run by employing a POC and finding the appropriate model that fits and addresses the organizational needs. Now, when serving the needs of the PMO functionalities, identifying roles and competencies is required. So like what type of roles and their skill sets are needed to manage the PMO? A POC should also follow a schedule baseline. Regular monitoring is needed to justify the POC outcomes and that the POC's performance continues to stay aligned with the organizational needs. So there is no way to measure performance without KPIs and to take corrective measures accordingly. How do you know it's doing well? The whole journey should also consider continuous improvement. So now that you've managed to identify your KPIs and you're measuring against them and you notice that there's room for improvement, well, there's the area where you need to start taking action. Now, there is a combination of activities that support the purpose of the PMO, such as the team structure of the PMO or the use of proper digital PMO technology tools to generate visibility and transparency in the PMO. This is very big and is also very expensive. So when the PMO makes a decision on what type of technology stack are they going to leverage when they're generating this visibility, they have to make sure they're doing their full due diligence in investigating, is this the right technology for us, right? And will we gain buy-in or face resistance? I've seen PMOs that have introduced certain types of technology stack that actually induce a lot of resistance because of excessive overhead, if that makes sense, like a lot of administrative undue or like process debt or administrative debt, that sort of thing. When project managers, all they really want to do is manage their projects. Now, proper and proactive stakeholder management and engagement strategies are essential in ensuring that the needs of the stakeholders are addressed. So a list of methods and artifacts will support the foundation and execution processes to maintain the standards. So the overall structure of the PMO can be based on agile philosophy, that the PMO team can be adaptable and flexible to take feedback and improve on continuous improvement. All right, now lastly, but not least, we have the PMO leadership layer. This is so important. Now, according to research and to Dylan's earlier comments, most PMOs fail due to a lack of effective role played by the PMO leadership team. You might have a sponsor, maybe a head of PMO, but if that person is not advocating for the development of PMO, you're at a loss, right? Now, with the growing demand for PMO, the need to develop skills required for the PMO leadership has become increasingly important. I can't stress this anymore. The skills and characteristics of the PMO leader are key focuses of this framework. So a skilled PMO leader can act as a catalyst for maturing the success of the PMO. Now, without strong leadership in the PMO will and can struggle with its identity and its role in the parent organization. And then essentially the optics of the type of value that the PMO may generate or can generate is lost, right? It's important to set the expectation from the PMO leadership team and gain executive sponsorship throughout the life cycle of the PMO. So also emotional intelligence can play a vital role in improving the success rate of the PMO leadership team. All right, we're coming to a close. Hope you're excited. Now, most of the governance, policies, and methodologies noted in this framework are applicable in most cases, but it's not a hard and fast rule, okay? So it's important to remember that tailoring is recommended to fit to the organizational needs. And this is all I have today. I'm not sure if we're going to do Q&As. I think that's a bit later. So I think that's it from my end, and I'll stop sharing my slide. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Wendy. You know, I've been through this guidebook and framework so many times, and I still ended up taking notes on your talk now. So thanks so much for that fantastic introduction and coverage of the CB certified PMO guidebook and framework that we discussed. So
you're welcome. Thank you.
And yeah, can we give a round of applause to Wendy? Fantastic. Love that explanation. And we will do a Q&A session as well. However, I do want to jump into another speaker of ours, and I'm very happy to introduce you all to our Vice President of Global Partnerships for the PMO Global Institute, Corinne O'Brien. So Corinne is an expert communicator who has benefited from engaging in multiple work experiences across industry verticals, including finance, education, and hospitality. She has a deep understanding of the diversity of project management, gaining cross-cultural expertise from operating in 6 countries across 3 continents over the past 16 years. Corinne understands how hard it can be to drive constructive and lasting change in organizations. And by sharing the knowledge of PMO Global Institute's CB-PMO framework that Wendy just took us through so nicely, Corinne also strives to change the fabric of PMOs across continents by ensuring that PMOs are not simply performing, but succeeding, thriving, and speaking the same global language. Welcome, Corinne.
Thank you, Dylan. Good evening, everybody. I'm in the south of Spain, so we are on the same time zone here. And Christine did inform me that the usual dinner time in Belgium is around 7:30. So I know you're going to be having some hungry stomachs within the next half an hour or so, but we will help to keep you entertained. So thank you for joining us tonight. As Dylan said, I am the VP of Partnerships at PMO Global Institute. And I just want to talk a little bit about careers tonight. We do have a few PMOs in the house. We have Christine here, we have Anastasia. Is there anybody else that's working within a PMO at the moment? Can you just type PMO into the chat box if we have anybody else here? I know we have 2 ladies. Any more PMOs tonight? Fantastic, Vincent. This is perfect. So, Alice, look, we're about 80% PMOs here. This is fantastic. This is absolutely excellent. Now, another question. Is anybody brave enough to just give us a couple of minutes of their own experience about working within a PMO? You don't have to turn on your camera or anything like that, but we would appreciate, hearing from a PMO's perspective there in Belgium. Would anybody like to just give us a few minutes explanation? Too hungry. How about you, Christine? Are you feeling brave?
Yes, my experience of PMO is really different from one sector to the other. For instance, I was a PMO in a bank for a few years. Now in a parastat, I don't know, do we say it's company linked to the government, and it's totally different. They don't have the culture of the PMO.
Interesting. Which one is more of a pleasure to work in, would you say, a governmental or private company?
I would say in the government, because we have to learn everything to the people. They don't have never heard about a PMO or timesheet to fill in or something like this. So it's totally new, following of budget and so on. And so it's really funny because you have the more contact, human contact, emotional intelligence, as mentioned by Wendy. And it's really interesting.
And super, super important, isn't it? I think the emotional intelligence part of the framework is one of the my favorite parts of the guidebook. Actually, you know, everybody here knows what it's like. Like Dylan says, as a PM, 90% of your time is communication, and the PMO, so many times it comes up against resistance. So you have to be super emotionally intelligent to deal with these kinds of people. Yeah, very, very interesting. Well, here at PMO Global Institute, we were created around 5 years, coming into 6 years ago. We did a huge research project with over 10,000 project managers in 150 countries. And we found there are major challenges within the PMO space. You saw these figures, you know, 75% failure rates, level 2 maturity assessment levels. It really is crazy. And we think it comes down to a lack of knowledge, basically, and a lack of education. And this is why we are here to support PMOs globally. So let me just share my screen with you and show you the 3 ways that you can get involved with PMO Global Institute to help you to boost your career in the PMO world. So the first way is to become an associate member. Dylan, if you wouldn't mind sharing the membership link in the chat box, please. Thank you. It's completely free, and here you'll be able to download your own copy of the CB-PMO framework. So it's nice to have it as a reference there. So please just take a few minutes and sign up as an associate member. We also have, you know, fantastic newsletters and recent industry news that we'll be sharing with you. So it's definitely beneficial. Tonight, also, 5 lucky winners are going to win our regular membership. So with this, it's worth $89. And with this, you can download your own version of the PMO guidebook. Here it is. So I hope you've been taking some notes. It's a very difficult quiz, but Wendy was amazing at explaining everything. So I'm sure you're going to be 100%. So 5 lucky winners will win that membership tonight. The next way that you can be involved with us is to become a CB-PMO consultant. So Wendy is an authorized instructor with PMO Global Institute. Wendy, would you like to pop your LinkedIn profile in the chat, and then people can connect with you if they're interested in taking your training programs? Thank you. So this is actually a 21-hour course where you go through the CB-PMO framework in detail. There's templates and checklists and some practical tools involved as well that you can take into your organization. Once you've gone through this training program, you will be able to implement and set up a successful PMO. It really is a fantastic training program. So this is a 21-hour course that you can join also. The last way is we do have a business partnership model. So if you are an instructor, you know, if you have that passion to pass on your knowledge, the best trainers are the ones that can add their own experience to their training program. So if you are a PMO and you feel like you would like to be an instructor to sort of boost the education within your organization, your community and beyond, then please contact me. I'll put my email in the chat box, and I'd be very happy to introduce our business partner program to you too. So thank you very much. Good luck in the quiz. I hope the 5 lucky winners, they get this guidebook tonight. And thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Corinne, for taking us through how to become involved with the PMO Global Institute. We do want to open up the floor for a quick Q&A session. I see we have had some questions regarding the importance of emotional intelligence. And I think if there's any place that emotional intelligence is important, Belgium, so international, you have different languages, different cultures coming together. So this understanding of cultural awareness and those softer skills in emotional intelligence is, of course, very and extremely important. And I do think that often it is under-recognized in the PMO space. But, any other questions? I think we can open up the floor for any other questions. Let it rip. Either unmute yourself or put it in the chat box.
Hello, everybody. This is Anastasia. Good evening. I think I would like to discuss with you as a professionals in PMO area very, very important question and very interesting question. As you certainly know, there are generally 2 greater roles for PMO in organizations. So first role is to provide program management. Yes, so we have some numerous projects and we set up the governance. Yes, and this is a kind of portfolio management. And the second greater role of PMO is supporting decision making. Yes, we deal with forecasting and analysis and operational activities, and we provide some better view to the management on what is going on in the organization. And this is exactly our value. We make sense. We allow organization to avoid mistakes in management. So my question is, how do you see the combination of these 2 roles in different organizations? Because I clearly see that normally one organization applies only one role. And it is very seldom when there are 2 roles in place simultaneously. So what do you think of it?
Sorry, Anastasia, is your question directed to anyone specific or just sort of open for whoever wants to take it?
I think this is a question for PMO professionals. I mean, PMO Global Institute.
Thank you, Anastasia.
So what is your experience with that?
Yeah, Wendy, would you like to take this one?
So Anastasia, can you try to briefly paraphrase your question, just so we're all on the same page?
Yes. So there are 2 greater PMO roles.
Yes.
One is program management.
Yes.
When we take a portfolio of projects and we govern it. And the second greater role is to support management. Yes, we support management with forecasts and analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see is normally in any organization, if we take one organization, there is only one role of PMO, either first or the second one. So can you give the examples of existing organizations where there are 2 roles applied, or maybe you have some experience in that?
It really varies on the organization, right? And its business objectives, because, for example, some of the larger size organization might require portfolio managers and program managers and PMO managers, which are not necessarily program managers or portfolio managers. And they have a different array of responsibilities and duties that function separately from that of a portfolio or program manager. They do exist. Now, some PMOs, they don't necessarily have program managers. In fact, they might have, there might be program managers outside of the PMO that effectively report from a reporting perspective into the PMO. So for example, you might have program managers in functional more functional oriented type of structures that fall into a different department, but because the things that they're touching on are, let's say they're capital or investment initiatives, and they might have a requirement to report into the PMO on the performance of the program that they're running. I hope that makes sense. So it really varies. There's no one-way street. There's no hard and fast rule as to what type of roles are composite of the PMO or that runs and operate the PMO. So, but I've seen portfolio managers, I've seen PMO managers, right? I've seen PCOs or project coordinator officers or control officers. I've also seen change-oriented type of roles like change officers or change leads or change management lead, organizational change managers. So it really varies. So depending on the size of the organization and the objectives of what is it that they're accomplishing, the bigger it is, the more complexity of multiple layers is required in that PMO. So there's different maturity sets. You have enterprise PMO or ePMO. You might have maybe the PMO requirement in the organization is not as large as an enterprise, so maybe it's just simply a PMO. Could even be a digital PMO, right? So there's different types of PMOs that are available to suit the needs of not just the organization, but the size of the organization. You don't necessarily need an enterprise PMO for a small company, right? You're going to overkill it. But for a large organization like Purolator, FedEx, UPS, that sort of thing, Amazon, yes, you're going to need an ePMO because it's crazy big. So, you're going to need to find a way to kind of make sure everyone has their seatbelt on when they go in the car, right? Because you don't want accidents. So, and if there are, a good chance of them that they'll survive. So, so I hope that kind of answers your question. There's no one hard and fast rule when it comes to what type of roles are in the PMO, but I can definitely say for sure there is always some sort of management capacity, right? Whether you're managing forecasts, it could be managing all the intakes of project initiatives that are not necessarily projects, they could be demands or opportunities, right? And for example, let's say there's a bunch of business needs and business cases. The PMO can actually help facilitate that with the business or the functional side to help convert those business needs into business cases, into projects, right? And then it goes through like some sort of pipeline as it gets facilitated. So yeah, I hope that really helps. Some PMOs are really small where it just does resource management because that's all it really needs, right? Maybe some templates, those are more supportive roles, right? Whereas you have more directive or direct PMO type style PMOs, those are like, here's all the policies, the procedures, here's the governance, here's the framework, here's all the templates, follow our rules, that sort of thing, because they have maybe regulatory, financial, and other compulsory requirements that they have to adhere to. So it really depends on the environment, the industry, because maybe they're federally regulated, or maybe they're not regulated at all and they have more flexibility.
All right.
Thank you very much, Wendy. I have written some notes. I mean, that's a good point. I have forgotten about transformation. Yes, transformation role is also very important. Business processes, optimization. Absolutely. Exactly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the question, Anastasia. Are there any other additional questions? We have about 2 or 3 minutes for some more questions. So